This type of Yerushalmi Eruvin. In the article Oz Hard Edition, we're at the beginning of Halacha Gimel, which is on Mem Beis Amud Aleph right at the top. And in the Vilna, we are on Taf Lametes Amud Aleph at the beginning of Halacha Gimel, which is about 5/8 of the way down. Talk about Bittul Rishus. Anshe Chotzer, yeah, people in the Chotzer, Sheshach Echad Man, below Erev. One of them forgot to participate in the Erev. And what happened was, he was then mevatel to the people of the Chotzer, the Rishus, his Rishus in the Chotzer, but not the Rishus of his house. So, based on Osim Lachnis Lahotzi, love Lahem. His house is therefore now as if it's cut off from the rest of the Chotzer. He can't take from inside his house to outside, and vice versa. His objects, neither him nor the other people of the Chotzer. Based also Lohem, but their objects like the rest of the people, Mutoim Lohem are permitted both for he and they to take in and out of his house. So the Gemara is going to explain eventually, not at first, that he's considered a guest vis-a-vis their objects. But the Gemara is not going to know of this, and it's going to bring a raya against Shmuel, and it's going to initially assume it's because the Rishus goes back and forth from him to them and them to him. But we'll come to that in the Gemara. Okay, Nasulo Rishuson. What if they gave him their Rishus? Who mutter? They of course are a corporate entity. They have an eruv. They gave them their rishus. Their mutter. Vein asur, and they're also because they flipped it around. Hayush 9. Now, what if there are two people who did not participate in the initial eruv, and the other people who the chazir want to be about the rishus? To them, it doesn't work. Osim zauzeh. Nobody can guess. Still nobody can carry. She'echon knows rishus from the rishus. To one person can give rishus and get rishus. V'shnayim no rishus, and two people can give rishus, but him no rishus, they can't take rishus because they're not a corporate entity; they are individuals. Okay, so like I said, the Gemara initially understands that the pshat in the Mishnah is that this site can be done over and over again. Shemutam lahem shabita rishuso. That was let's go for Kormishas, that their stuff is mutter to him and to them because he doesn't about the Rishus, so therefore he no longer is considered Rishus in the Chatzah vis-a-vis their objects. And Ma'ashtas Chalila, but can we then change it and go the other direction? Right? So the Talmud Rabbi Shem Rabbi Yechos there's Chalila. It goes back because it says Shalom Mutaim Lohem. So then we go back and forth. Shmuel says it doesn't go back and forth. Aye, Mastisa plead on Shmuel. In that case, our Mishnah on Shmuel is our Mishnah Shalahem Mutaim Lov Lahem. You can't go back. It seems it can't go back and forth. Shabita Rishusa. No. So because Mavata Rishus, and therefore, although the Gemara doesn't say explicitly, because his Vata Rishus, he's considered to be a guest vis-a-vis them, and therefore time because it's Chosesh Chil that now they say, okay, we're motzi our stuff, now you can be motzi our stuff as well. And when Mavata Rishus to you, no, then it should be Chosesh Chil for everything. And no, it's just, he's only he can motzi their stuff because he's in Vata Rishus them, and therefore it's if he doesn't live here. Relative to their property, he's a guest, and he can take out their property and put their property because he's a guest by them, not his own stuff. In the Mishnah, Nasr Rishus and who Mutavein Asurin. Sounds like okay, then go by directions, right? Because first you learn where he's about Rishus to them, and there we learn about them being about Rishus to him. So it seems Choser Chalil, like Rab. Patla studying Masisa. So it says no, Mishnah is two separate cases. One is okay, but it's all for the entire Shabbos. Either he's about to Rishus to them, or them about to Rishus to him. Okay, the next Gemara, we're going to change the gears to go with the Korban Eidos gear, so which the article also does, I see. And though to change the Girsa to the way the Bavli reads, the commentary at the end, where the Korban Eder tries to equate the Bavli and Yerushalmi. That's not explicit here, and we'll come to that when we get to that. Meantime, we're going to read the Girsa out of the Korban Eder. Hagi Garsina Tani Echad Shlo Irev. One person who didn't make an Erev knows Rishus Echad She'erev. He can give his Rishus to one person who was participating in Erev. So it sounds like a guy who wasn't married as an individual gives his Rishus to an individual who's part of a greater Erev. Shnaim She'ervu, the two people who made an Erev, Nosim Rishus Echad Shlo Irev, they give their Rishus, their corporate entity, to one who didn't make an Erev. Ushnaim She'ervu, two people who didn't make an Erev, Nosim Shnaim She'ervu, they can give their Rishus to two people who became a corporate entity by making an Erev, or Echad Shlo Irev, or to one person who didn't participate in Erev. Avalo Echad Lo Echad She'irev, but one person who's part of an Erev can't be Nosim Rishus Echad Shelo Irev, to one person who didn't make an Eruv. Vein Shnaim She'irvu, nor two people can also Rishusam L'Shnaim Shelo Irvu, to two people could give their Rishus to two people who did not make an Eruv. Ve'ein Shnaim Shelo Irvu, and to two people who did not make an Eruv, Nosim Rishusam L'Shnaim She'irvu, give their Rishus to two people who didn't make an Eruv. And then the Korban Eder comments. Kainu b'bavli with the sefta b'achi perusha. This is what it means. Say echad shlo irev noser shus echad she'irev. One who didn't make an erev can give a shus to another, to one of the people who made an erev. Go shlosha durim b'chatzer. There are three people in the chatzer. Hashnaim irev v'ashlishi lo irev. The two people made an erev and the third did not make an erev. Vata echad min arvin. He can be be mevatel his rishus to one to be made erev. The dafka shemeis hasheni she'irvim b'Shabbos. So that line is not explicit in Yerushalmi, so it's in the Bavli. That would be mevatel rishus to one of the two people who made the erev would be ineffective because there's only one of the two people. So therefore, it must be talking about where the second person died on that Shabbos, not present. Korban Eder continues with his interpretation here. That Shnaim She'irvu Nosim Rishus L'Echad Shlo Irev. V'lo Aminu, we don't say came in Lo Irev Likna, say we don't say let's find him because he didn't participate in the Erev initially. Shnaim Lo Irev Nosim Rishus Shnaim She'irvu. The two which not married give their Rishus to the two people who made Erev if they're both alive. You have to mevatel Rishus to each and every one. L'Echad Shlo Irev. Or they can give it just to one person in the Erev. Each this how can the came in the Kumlo Irvu, since none of them participated in the Eruv. Let's find them that so people shouldn't forget. Hey, normally you need an Eruv. We don't find them. The one of the individuals who made Erev can't with somebody else can't give a shus to a third person who lives with them didn't make the Erev. But like Yerushalmi, when Zavata is a shus, akate ika chavrei the asrei, his friends still asers. Since the beginning said one who didn't get participate in Erev gives his rishus to somebody who didn't participate to another person who didn't participate. Tanakh Sefer tells us say for that, but not one out of two who were married. Page 9, page 9 She'irvu Chuliv. I feel but lechad minay chavrei, even if one is mevatel to his friend, lo mishtori. It doesn't work. Came the batel lo avei leishar yusuf b'chatzer. He was time as mevatel. He didn't have permissibility in that chatzer. It's even I'm mevatel to two people. And then that said, one of the other guy says, okay, one of those two people is mevatel to the other person. It doesn't work because you can't be mevatel to two people. So your initial bittul did nothing. In fact, later on, that person to whom your mevatel was mevatel to the other guy doesn't help you. Page time Amar Kniyam Nas Laknos, and the two which are not Marev can't give their rishus to two who are Marev. Or even if it says be kind in order to be marked the other guy. No, doesn't work. Can't be about the rishus to two people, even if you say on the condition you're about the rishus later on. And then the Brisa finishes up. Now we go back to the Girsa in the in the Gemara itself. Hakol Neistim Rishus and Neitlim Rishus. Anybody can be nice in the Rishus, Chutz Mishnayim Shlo Yervu, except for two people who were not Maharev. Shein Neistim Rishus, they can give Rishus. The Eina Neitlim Rishus, they can Neitlim Rishus. That doesn't work. Okay, so in other words, generally summing out the basic principles underlie all the cases which we just gave. Rav Chizdoi Amar. Rav Chizdoi said, if you have 10 Jews living in one house and they did not make an Eruv, so everybody has to participate in the Bittul Rishus if they want to be able to carry on Shabbos. Now, the Chiddush is really vis-a-vis the Chotzer. All those 10 Jews in the house, after Bittul Rishus, even the Chotzer can't, we'll say one representative of the house of Bittul Rishus for the whole house. No, they're 10 independent Jews living in the house. Those Jews all have to be Mavatar Rishus to the individually to either individual or the Eruv and the Chotzer. So that seems to be a prelude to the next statement. Rabbi Yasser you have 10 non-Jews living in one house. So again, you have to do Schiras Rishus, reach everyone. This also seems to be a prelude to the next statement. In other words, leading up to this idea. Rabbi Barabba said, was a wife of a certain Persian non-Jew who rented out for Shabbos purposes the Chatzer without her husband's cognizance. So she did it without his authorization, even though presumably he is the actual owner. Ask him Rabbi Shmuel. So the story came from Rabbi Shmuel, Vishara, and and he permitted this counted as a schirus. Savri Meimar, they deduce from this afilu shamosho v'lekito, even a shamish and a lokit, even a servant and an employee can rent on behalf of the owner without the owner's knowledge. We rely on this all the time in Eruvin. You go the shamish and the lokit, the servant and the employee, and do the schirus for them, which is I don't think I've ever plugged before my sefer on Eruvin, but might as well do it today. Why not? That's the time is good time as any. So, contemporary, we discussed this that that you can maybe socher rishus and from the policeman or fireman or any municipal employee, not just from the official municipal authorities. Okay, so the halacha is yisom mevatel v'akum maskir. Bittul rishus works by a Yisrael and not schirus, and schirus works by akum, by a non-Jew, and not bittul. V'yivatu who will let him be yivatu akum. I guess could be either yivatu who akum chazer hu bo, or it could be yivatu who akum chazer bo. Whatever way you read it is. Let him be. Why can't a nakum be mevatel rishus? Because it's going to be chaser. In other words, he doesn't take it. He doesn't do it. Doesn't do it seriously. The way the Korban Eidah learns that he's going to be chaser from the bittul and aser chutz and Yisrael will know that the nakum is mevatel, but he's not going to know that he's chaser from his bittul, and therefore he's going to carry shalokadin, and on that, the article at Sites of Chaim here, he says, well, so what? So we had previously with the Tzdoiki, Ran Gamliel, that go and be machzik in the Rishus after the bittul, and then the guy can't renege, right? So it could be that even Ran Meir says you can do that. Ran Gamliel was going to Ran Meir Shita, so if you recall, holds that the guy can be choser even after the Yisrael's machzik, because it's megala das that he really wasn't mevata b'leiv sholi to begin with, which I think is actually the real pshat in the Gemara. I think the pshat in the Gemara is not that the chazara is the issue, but rather that he doesn't take it seriously to begin with. Like I said before, it's not. He's not. Just Shabbos is meaningless to him. Even Tzedakah is different than a goy, and that Tzedakah knows what Shabbos is, and therefore, once he's in Vatel, he might be upset about it, but if they're machzi in the chotzer, they're machzi in the chotzer. But by the goy, Betel Shabbos, it's an Orach Chaim transaction. The goy doesn't have Orach Chaim transactions, so he doesn't. The Schiros is a Choshen Mishnah transaction that a goy has. The Orach Chaim transaction he doesn't have, so therefore it's not B'teres Bittul. I think that's the really pshat in the Gemara. He brings down the article that the Bavli gives in some basically a different reason why Bittul Rishus doesn't work by Nochri, because Chachamim wanted to curtail the Jews living with the Goyim, like we said, is the main reason for Skiras Rishus, and therefore they said, we want to make you do Skiras Rishus, which is an uncomfortable procedure in order to make it uncomfortable to you to live with the Goyim. But in any event, that's not the pshat here in the Yerushalmi. So, Miata, if that's the case, says Gemara, feel maskir chazabu, right? If he's also maskir, if he's going to rent it, it's going to be chazabu as well. No, because it's choshen mishma. Choshen is something which the goy has connection to as well. Mikam gezel mishtamish. If he goes back and takes it back, he's just stealing from us. It's not negating it; he's stealing. So therefore, schirus sticks. Adechon. So, how to what extent does this schirus require that it be a formal schirus? Rabbi Yeva Kaida Mar Rabbi Yasser Shem Raimon Bar Tanchum, Rabbi Bob Shem Yechon. Let it be like we know. It's said in Rabbi Yasser Shem Raimon. I don't know. I'm being on names again. Yasser Shem Raimon Rabbi Tanchum Rabbi Bob Shem Yechon. Ain't Kakanika Pachas Shabbat Pruta. So you can't be less than Shabbat Pruta like a normal schirus. Mitzvah Rabbi Yaakov Baracha Amar Afilu Begos Afilu B'Tmara. No, the story which we're about to bring with Rabbi Yaakov Baracha seems to indicate that even a nut, even a date is sufficient. It's interesting the lashon of carbonate. Afilu Begos Afilu B'Tmara Shem Pchusim Mishchav Pruta Yiskor Bahen Me'akum. The Ben Noach Ner Pachas Shabbat Pruta. Interesting, because according to Ben Noach halachas, the lesser Shabbat Pruta is considered to be gezel. So therefore, also lesser Shabbat Pruta can serve as a valid rental from the non-Jew. So the article brings down the Mepharshim argue if this is true about any kinyan kesef from a non-Jew that works even lesser Shabbat Pruta, or it's only a specific halacha by schirus by eruv, which in that case would not have to come on to this svara to extrapolate from Gezel, because they're making it because it's only for a heker. And he brings down a bunch of marmakoimis about that. Okay, so it seems I'm inclined to say that it's all a special kula that you have by Eruv. Otherwise, but can't say for sure. Okay, now we're going to learn the next part of the sugya until the Mishnah, first according to Carbonate, and then we're going to discuss it a little bit further. So we said the story about Rabbi Yaakov Racha. Rabbi Yaakov have a novik lachsanya. Rabbi Yaakov Racha, when he was going out to a hotel, if he found a way to make a takana to rent the hotel from the non-Jew, he did so. And if not, the non-Jew did not want to rent it to the Yisrael, then mevader monui, he would scatter his kalim all over the corners of the house. He would put his stick over here, sandal his sandals over here, diskaya his backpack, his suitcase over here. So so he himself becomes schir l'kito because he was using all entire rishus. So therefore, he didn't have to rent from the non-Jew. He didn't have to rent for himself because he himself was the Schir Lakito. So instead of renting, he became a Socher Velokit because of his usage of the entire area. The fascinating thing. Now the next line is cryptic. Sorry. It's talking about where the innkeeper was a non-Jew. If he's a pundik Yisrael, eno choshed l'taltel. He's not suspect to carry. Meaning, seems according to Korban Eda that he's not choshed to make an eruv. We assume he's Yisrael and a kosher Yisrael. He made an eruv. But the way Reb Chaim explains it, he says that by Yisrael there was no takon of schir l'kito, so that eitzah would not work. Not that he's not that he's he assumed there's the error, but rather there is no eitzah. There's no schir l'kito which would supplant an eruv. The Yerushalmi Pshuto says that he wants to say that you don't actually need schirus from a non-Jew, but you need reshus for ishtamshus. And by using it, and the non-Jew is not moiche, that indicates that you have reshus ishtamshus. Where Ba'abas is Yisrael, you don't need to come on to that. Because he doesn't care if nobody else comes to rent room, to hire rooms for Shabbos. And evidently that was the case. He was the only resident of the hotel. So then you don't have to indicate Rishus Hashem is automatic, which is very difficult to say. The Sameach in Eruvin in Perek Beis Yud Beis says brings this ma'isa to prove that a schirus re'ua is sufficient. You don't need to have a true schirus, which of course is as far as we said before a few minutes ago for why Pachsu Shabruta works. So therefore he wants to say that that's what happened here, that it's a bit chiddush, but he says that the reason why it was mefazer kelo of his scatters vessels was that the goy should not be chayzebo, because it was soicher Pachsu Shabruta. There was a schirus ruah. I guess it was some dubious type of schirus. In other words, that in low they couldn't find takana means he didn't have a way of making it work with the proper schirus. Well, he had to use takashava pruta, he would not have to be in Pfizer Kalev. And the case with the Yisrael is where they forgotten, didn't make an error, but there was bitul rishus. And we say that the Yisrael is not choshed, that he's going to come and reverse that bitul rishus. By Tzdoki, we had the chashash, but evidently we already saw we have no chashash, and therefore you don't have to go and scatter your kalim in order to be machzik. So the two cases here, I want to say about skirus by a non-Jew and bittul by a Jew, which actually is in line with the Gemara before. Okay, halacha daled. May Messiah knows the Rishus. When do you give Rishus? The bittul Rishus, when does that take place? So, Beis Shammai made me about Yom. I'm going to do it before Shabbos begins. Which begs the question, why should you do an Eruv? But I guess it was enough time. So, because as the Korban says, the Stavi Bit Rishus, Mikne Rishuso, it's being Makne Rishus. It's like a Mishra transaction. Makne Rishuso b'Shabbos also. Beis Hillel Mishetech Beis Hillel says, even after night falls, the Stavi Bitul Lavak Rishuso, says Korban. It's not being Makne Rishuso, it's Taluki Rishuso, it's removal from Rishus. So, Rishuso is Shabbos Shaper Dami. The Mistalik is you can do Misha after nightfall. The way I would say this, it's an Orchaim transaction, therefore Orchaim transactions can be done on Shabbos. If you're nice in Rishus and then you're Moitzi Ben Mishoy Moizid, we're not close you're going to do that. That's why we said a few minutes ago by Yisrael, you don't have to go out and it was not Stoke, you don't have to go out and assert Bilos. But if somebody gave Rishus, it was Moitzi Ben Mishoy Ben Moizid. You may or you don't may amazing oser. If he deliberately was closed from Rishus, then he's asers. Shogeg in oser. If he did it inadvertently, he doesn't aser. Says Gemara. Kadim Masnisa. This is a way to read our Mishnah. Me'emosai mevatlin rishus. when the Mevat Rishus, right? Because no same Rishus can be misleading. So they would say from when Mevat Rishus, Beishamrim Melbod Yoim. So Mishatachsha Beisil says from Beishamrim says during the day, before Shabbos begins, it says at night, even at night. Well, I threw the word even there. I shouldn't have. Kini Masnisa. This is the way to read the Mishnah. Beisil Amrim. And here, where the Reb Chaim puts in, and the Yerushalmi Kipshuto, it's obvious, but the article puts it as well. Let's take a look. No, he doesn't change it in the Gemara. Okay, but the it's much more partial if you do change it. As he just doesn't put on. Of course, it would be by then, but also for after nightfall. So locain who, if you wouldn't say that, Masisa Kli B'Sham B'Sil Chumrei B'Sil, the Mishnah would be a Chumrah according to B'Sil. It was saying that B'Sil was he saying that no, only from nightfall, not me by doing. So therefore, it must be saying that B'Sil is also B'Shetachshach. The way the Korban Eidah learns and the way the art school learns is that actually the Girsa was that they initially had a Girsa in our Mishnah B'Shamrim Mishatechsha B'Somim B'Yoyim, which would make B'Sil more machmir, and they switched the Girsa and said no, it's the way the Girsa is in the Mishnah in front of us. Okay, that's it for today.